Oh, yeah, buds. So, welcome back to the Formula A podcast. You got Markis here, you got Kyle, and our new member here, Ryan. First time on the podcast. How's it going, bud?
Pretty good. Happy to join. Thank you for this opportunity. It's quite the pleasure.
Yeah, so we're complete now. It's officially the threesome you all wanted. We're here and we're ready to go.
I think the first thing I got to ask everyone who's listening, did anybody do the Aston bet that we told you about? What do you think, Kyle? Aston Martin in the points, the boys predicted it?
I hope you guys did because, we said one and we got two. So I think we know what we're talking about here. So we just wanted to put that out there right away. Predictions, we've got the crystal ball, so pay attention to us.
But the thing we didn't see coming in the crystal ball, Charles spinning out of the race. That
Crazy.
That was a pretty wild one. What do you guys think? The guy's maybe going to be cracking under pressure, or?
Well, now we get to really see it. Every time Charles has been in a Ferrari, it's either been very close to a championship-winning car or it's been an absolute tractor. No offense, Ferrari, in the last couple of years. So this is his first year really taking a crack at a title, and this was his first race where RB was in full form, and we got a bit of a taste of what it might be like if Charles is not completely dominating the race. I think it's going to be a one-off scenario, because I think Charles is better than that. What do you guys think?
I definitely think he's pretty good at coping with the pressure. I think this, where it's different than the other seasons, he's actually a championship contender, whereas before he was taking a third-place car and occasionally fighting for a win. And I feel like in that situation, at least in karting, if you know you're not always going to be, fighting for a championship, you're going to get the win here and there, it's easier to keep a cool head. Whereas, like we saw with the very long season last year, it's I think it was Lewis that said it on the radio. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that's really where things are going to show. You've got to look at the bigger picture. And I think maybe had he kind of sacrificed it, accepted that, hey, you know what? I'll take the third place this race, and rather than toss away, because we know how valuable the points are. Like, we went level-headed going into the final race last year, so maybe these 7 points could potentially cost them the championship.
Well, yeah, and it's a big gap now, but Red Bull's had their problems, and we knew it wasn't going to last forever. Like, okay, it's early season. There's always breakdowns and mechanical problems early. That gap was not going to last that long for Leclerc, at least to that substantial amount. It was like over 40 points or something, right? So, the pressure was on him at Imola, and, it was like instant. As soon as you saw him hit that curb, you see the undercarriage go over. It's like he's done. He's lost the car. So, it's interesting to see how these different drivers cope with it, but I do agree with Ryan. I think it's a one-off. He's a mature dude. That's the most important thing, and I think he'll turn it around. But it was tough, especially being in front of the Tifosi. That was the hardest part. The onboard, all you can see is Ferrari flags, and then the car is just gone. It was tough, but I think he'll turn it around, guys.
It's just an incident.
Just an incident on the race.
Yes. So he might have been stupid. There, but I do. Yeah, one off. You're okay, Charles. Don't worry.
Yeah, for Ryan, I'm sure it's best case scenario for you. Huge points haul for Red Bull. They won the sprint race. They got the 1-2. They got fastest lap. I'm sure you're smiling. I know we're McLaren fans, so we're pretty happy with Lando, but I'm sure nobody can top your excitement right now.
Oh, yeah. So quick introduction. I do work in a Honda factory for an engine plant, and I am part of one of the henchmen for the Honda factory racing team. And by default, I am a massive Red Bull supporter, big Max Verstappen fan, so that was a race that made me very happy. But also I want to say hats off to Tifosi, the Imola crowd, the energy, the red flares, the flags. That was phenomenal. Yeah. It was definitely some early 2000s, 1990s vibes going on there. Yeah. It was awesome. I loved seeing that because I'm a big Red Bull guy, but I always have space for Ferrari in my heart.
It's big time, most legendary team. I think deep down everyone kind of likes Ferrari a little bit. You might not want to admit it, but everyone...
Seb quote, baby. Yeah. Everybody's a Ferrari fan, even if they don't admit it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got a little bit of red in them. So, you know what? It's the most legendary team on the grid. So, but you know what? it might have been in Italy, it might have been Ferrari's home, but that was Red Bull's day. They dominated. Max was just totally untouchable. I did see a fun fact though. That is the first time since I believe it was 1979 that we've had
double Grand Slam.
Yeah, 2 different drivers have Grand Slams in the same season, and we're only into the fourth race.
Yeah,
it's
well,
crazy.
This season is proving to be one of the craziest seasons so far. I mean, we literally only have, I think it's Schumi and Gotifi that haven't scored points.
Yeah,
which is mind-boggling to only be 4 races in.
Really,
and have
it's
2...
mind-boggling that Latifi hasn't scored points.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
listen, for him just finishing the race without crashing this year, I think that's a big win for him as well. But I figured we'd hold back on the chirps just a little bit.
Yeah, we had
a double. You
doubled down on him there. I started it off.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's the fact of the matter is it's a good season, and
yes,
it's the start we all wanted. You got 2 teams that are looking really good, much like last year, but we've got a new face close to the top in Ferrari, right? And Red Bull is still there. It's good to see them. So obviously a great weekend for them. Now we know Ryan's a Red Bull fan. We know we had a great weekend, but myself and Markis, we had a great weekend too. I mean, Charles Leclerc's loss was Lando Norris's gain, but I mean, Markis, Lando, I think, you can say what you want. Sure, he got from Leclerc's spin, but I think he absolutely deserved that podium.
Oh, 100%. He raced such a good, consistent race. Didn't make any mistakes. He did what he had to do. His pits were great. He got the tires warm perfectly. He performed in the sprint race, set himself up good. I mean, it sucks for his teammate Rick that it looked like he kind of went in just a little too aggressively, understeered, and then ended Carlos's race too, which sucks, especially with that new contract that he signed. But one thing that I think I was talking to Ryan about it earlier this week, that this Carlos contract, what is that going to mean for Mick? Do we think we're going to see Mick in Ferrari anytime soon, or is Mick going to be more of a Ralf Schumacher over a Michael Schumacher?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I do want to jump on that because you know what? I get it. I don't know if there's anybody else in the grid that has more pressure on them than Mick, just solely because of the name. Your dad is, up until Lewis passed him, was the most successful driver of all time, right?
Yeah.
I do, and you know what? I like Mick. Great guy. We know he has the skill and the raw talent. I do think he's underperforming right now. Do I think that will last forever? No. I think he will turn it around. But I do want to see just a little bit more from him. And maybe the pressure's getting to him. Last year he had a guy that was consistently so far off of him. We all know the GOAT Mazepin. I mean, who can possibly forget that guy? But now he's got a guy in Kevin Magnussen who, very experienced in F1, took a year off, and he's, it's a great benchmark for Mick. And I think eventually Mick will turn it around, but it's a little tough right now.
And hats off to Magnussen for just coming back to F1 out of the blue and just dropping 3 out of the 4 races he's done incredible in. So hats off to him and a Haas. That's impressive stuff. Can't deny that.
I mean, who would have thought that, if we said last year that next season Haas would be outperforming Mercedes, I think nobody would believe us.
Oh no, it's not a case of still I rise or anything like that. That's a still I fall, unfortunately.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it.
That's a tough one, yeah. But there's a lot of takeaways from this race. One guy that did stand out to me, and you know what? It's almost bizarre. It felt like a little under the radar because we brought up Magnussen, and it instantly reminded me of somebody who pulled a great overtake on Magnussen. That was little Yuki Tsunoda. Man, that guy was on fire for so much of the race. I think at one point he had to have been the fastest guy on the track. He was just storming through. He had a great battle with Lance Stroll too. You want to talk about a guy that's really improved. I think Yuki is just flying now. I think he's only up from here basically.
And I agree. And he definitely silenced his doubters from last year because he was having some doubters.
Yeah.
And currently he is ahead of his teammate Pierre Gasly, who was very impressive last year in very good form. Another thing I've just noticed, which I find very cool right out the gate, is every team has another team they're competing with. So Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, Alpha Alpine, Alpha Tauri, and Haas, and you have Aston and Williams all kind of, there's a pairing, a duo going on right now, which is cool. They're all pretty close in points. For the record, Mercedes does have 77 points, and
77.
Haas has 15. So I wouldn't quite say the Haas is out.
I think
Kevin
it's more
Magnussen is
yeah.
outperforming Lewis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we got to look at Russell as well, too. He's been top 5 in every single race. I don't know how he's done it with that car, but I mean, he's definitely no stranger to pushing a very underperforming car over its limit. And I think, not to say that Lewis can't do that. I mean, he's had his fair share of not good cars, but I think he did get a little comfortable in, from 2014 up until last year, he was in a car that was miles ahead of everybody else, whereas Russell, what he's done with that Williams, and I think we talked about it on the last podcast, getting that Spa podium. I mean, say what you will about him, but he fully deserved that.
Yeah, and I mean, I do believe, it's 4 races. I think he's the only guy that's been in the top 5 every race.
That is a fun stat.
That is a fun
true.
stat.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say
Top five every 4 races so far.
Yeah, so hats off to George. I mean, we all know this guy's an unbelievable talent. We knew he was going to do good. I think we did touch on this in the last episode too. I think an advantage that Russell might have over Hamilton is, like we said, Hamilton's never been in a position before. I mean, he had one year, I think, early on where the McLaren that he was driving was not very good. But he's never really been in a position where he's been in a really scrappy car. And Russell, that's all he's been in his whole career.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
and
I think he's just a little better with being able to understand a bad car and being able to get the most out of it than Hamilton might be.
I just read the quote. It was 2009 since he's had a car even close to this performance.
Yeah.
Now, I will defend Hamilton, and you won't hear me say that very often, so take it when you can get it. If anybody, doesn't matter how good of a driver you are, if you're in a good car for 8 years, absolutely it is going to be hard to turn it around in 4 races. So, and I know Hamilton, he has insane perseverance, and he's stubborn, and he does not back down. I'm still not counting him out. He's going to climb the ladder, and he will figure that car out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
It's just a matter of time, and I bet you it'll be this season.
I don't think, though, it's going to be a championship contending season for him.
No.
I think they're going to be fighting McLaren for 3rd, but I think we'll see maybe 1 or 2 Mercedes victories this year.
Yeah, I can see that coming.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, the teams, they put so many upgrades and so much development in these cars over the course of a season, and it's a 23-race season now. It's a long time to go, right? So there's a lot of time for these guys to improve. And, yeah, there's just too much talent in that team internally with engineers and technical side, everything, right? I don't think they're going to be down for very long. They're just way too good. They've got such a huge budget. I realize the cost cap does play effect in that now, but they have the resources to turn it around quickly. But that being said, I mean, there's another team that has huge resources and huge money in Aston Martin, and they can't seem to figure out at all. So we'll have to see.
If all else fails, though, and they need someone to help them out, they could always just turn to Inspector Seb. I mean, we saw him make another appearance this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey,
he made sure not to touch
Don't
the cars,
touch the
though.
wing. Do not touch
That's
the
the
wing.
wing.
Yeah.
He knows that's a very expensive choice to make, so he made sure to steer clear of that.
Yes.
But
and as Max said, they might be going out for another very nice dinner.
Yeah.
To that note, though, another person I'm very impressed with, hats off to, is Seb Vettel.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's been pretty out of it this season for issues that he could not control. And the Australia race, he clearly had no time to practice or get used to the car.
Yeah.
And he rocks up to Imola and throws down a wicked sprint and an 8th place finish. So that's very impressive.
Yeah, you got to remember, he's got two less races than everyone else under the belt, right? I mean, we had the Hulk filling in for him. And, this guy just, wily old veteran, man. He just jumps in, and especially in changing conditions, too. He just seems to know how to get the most out of the car when it matters. So even if that Aston Martin, I think we dubbed it a tin can on wheels last time, as bad as it might be.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, they have a guy that knows how to handle it in there. So that is important for them.
Aston Martin is really showing that you can't just throw money at a problem and expect it to go away.
No, and
You
that
need
is
to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry to the Stroll family, but you can't just throw wads of cash at something and expect it to be fixed.
Yeah, and I mean, we heard there's a lot of internal stuff that it's like, we'll never know. A couple guys sitting up here in Ontario, or we'll never know.
Yeah, what do I know?
We'll never know like what these guys like talk about like behind the scene. But we heard from outgoing team principal Otmar Safnauer. I mean, he had a few things to say about the Aston Martin team. Since we're on this topic of this team, it seems there's so much talk about these guys all the time, right? It seems that the head brass there, Lawrence, he can bring in some really like qualified guys to run departments, but I think the micromanagement might be killing these guys a little bit. I think he's got to realize that, you've got guys in there that know what they're doing. I think you got to just step back a bit and let them do their thing, So it's a weird situation there. But yeah, we'll have to see if they can turn it around. I mean,
well, speaking of things being turned around, the internet was going crazy. I want to say it was for the last 2 weeks. Everyone's been posting about bring back the cool down room, bring back the cool down room.
Oh,
looks like
yes.
F1 listened for once.
Oh yes.
How great was that?
I can't believe how excited everybody is, and it is.
It's
I don't know
cool.
why. I'm guilty for it too. I was so excited.
I know it's one of those like it's we didn't really think that we missed it because with COVID and everything we just got used to they do their interviews whatever. And then they just go right to the podium. This was nice. You saw them kind of joking around. They watched a couple of the replays. And what's nice about the driver lineup this year is there's just so much natural chemistry. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You see Max and Checo are really good teammates. There's that genuine. It didn't feel forced. I know I'm getting I'm getting chappy,
Ryan's
all excited here.
There.
But for example, you look at. I don't want to bring him down, but Mercedes last year, you could tell the Valtteri Hamilton wasn't. It was almost like a faked relationship. I think you guys got that.
Get
vibe
a bit of
too,
a vibe, yeah.
I didn't get that. I think just Finnish people are naturally a little cold, even if they don't intend to be.
Oh yeah, we know Kimmy. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the people from Finland, they would just get in the car, we drive, and that's sometimes we win races, but.
Hey, maybe that was good.
That was good. Yeah.
Maybe little do we know that Valtteri maybe played a much bigger role in car development than everybody gave him credit for.
Yeah, because I mean, listen, I'm sure he was smiling, fighting Russell for. I think they were fighting for P4. That
yeah.
I'm sure had he gotten P4, that would have been.
Did anyone else get PTSD when they would come down that straight to
big time.
to the braking markers? I'm like, oh
Every
god,
lap.
it's gonna happen
It was
again.
like roles reversed this time too. It was like this guy's just gonna send it down the inside and get his revenge. But thankfully, he's level-headed, Valtteri. Yeah. We can always count on him to be level-headed. But as you mentioned with the car development too, right, and playing a huge role in it. I mean, that Alfa Romeo team was nowhere last year. This guy gets in there, and they're fighting for, if it wasn't for that stinker pit stop that he had, that could have been a fight with Lando for third for the podium, right? So, I think people are, kind of undervalued Valtteri a little bit in his role he played in that team, and I mean, tradition's Valtteri. Like it's like sweet revenge for this guy. So I think. As everyone said, you might be a little bit of a Ferrari fan inside. I think everyone's a bit of a Valtteri fan inside too, because everyone he's a good guy. How can you not? He's never done anything really, unless you're maybe George Russell. He's never really done anything to offend anybody. And
I wasn't the happiest with him in Hungary last year when he decided to go bowling against into Red Bull.
Yeah, that's.
But that was a first corner racing incident in the wet. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people getting offended, I think a lot of people were pretty offended with the way Rosberg was commentating. That was pretty aggressive.
That was spicy.
Now, I will give Rosberg credit. The one thing he has said recently, I found, was if someone were to turn around the Mercedes problem, Toto Wolff is your guy. That's a quote from Rosberg.
Yeah.
But then pretty much he said that, and then right after that, he has been on an absolute tornado shredding him, his previous teammate.
Oh, he's like, I mean, you got to look at, what George is doing. George is constantly outperforming Lewis in the same car. George and Lewis are driving the same car. By the way, did you know I was a world champion in 2016? I beat Lewis. Like, that was just the whole the whole time I'm like, Jesus.
That was
how
that was a
did-
good
Yeah.
that was a good accent, by the way.
That was
a good
barely
imitation.
That was
accent,
pretty
though.
good. Well, he was quite like quick to point out the fact too. Again, yeah, like Russell's top 5 every race, but but everyone's kind of pandering to Hamilton a bit, and it's like Lewis. I know this isn't the car we need, but it's undrivable. But we'll get it turned around, right? And then it's like, oh, by the way, George, nice job on P4, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
It is a little strange, but like your Russell comments are totally true. I mean, I don't know if you get a chance, there's a great Juan Fangio documentary on Netflix, and Rosberg is one of the guys they interview, and I remember like these little slight jabs at Hamilton are nothing new, because I do remember at one point he talks about a year that Fangio won the championship, and his car breaks down, and he would have obviously lost the championship. His teammate lent him his car to finish the race so he would win the
I
championship.
think this was in what, 57?
It
I
is
think, or-
like mid-50s or something like that, and Rosberg instantly said, I wonder if Lewis Hamilton would have done that for me. So this is like nothing new with these little jabs. I like it. He's got personality, Rosberg. He's fun to have on the Sky Sports crew, but
to
yeah.
give Lewis a little bit of credit, I don't think that Rosberg is correct when he says, they're in the exact same car. I'm sure they're trying different setups, just trying to see what's going to work for the car, how they can improve the car, and then eventually they'll bring that big upgrade, and I think we'll see them, improve
And,
decently.
yeah.
I mean, we look at McLaren, how they've turned around from, they were like P15 and P18 in Bahrain to now we won't talk about Rick this race. I think he
made his
Tough go.
mistake.
he
and
made his mistake,
Yeah.
and then
And
the
you know
hards
what?
weren't working
He didn't
for
get a
him, and-
penalty, but he ended up paying the price
Yeah.
because he got caught behind DRS train, and then just nothing went his way for the rest.
yeah,
of the race.
he ruined his own race too, so it went both ways, right?
Yeah. But still, to see how they've managed to turn it around. I mean, we saw him qualify well in the sprint race. He almost made up good positions. I think had he not, had the little touch there with Sainz, I think we might have been in for a.
What do we call that? Are you putting a fault on anybody? Racing incident,
I think
50-50?
that's
I think it's a racing incident. I mean, if you have to pin it on someone, it's obviously Ricciardo. I mean, Sainz left all the room in the world, and he still got hit. But I mean, we know how narrow that first corner is at Imola, right? It's almost like you're just like something's waiting, like someone's gonna go off at some point.
Well, I think it was Perez, Magnussen, and Sainz went 3 wide, and they all tapped each other's wheel and made
Yeah.
it through.
Yeah.
It was like a little drift tandem train. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
They made it through.
Yeah, I think even Bottas might have a little bit of contact on somebody there too. I mean, thankfully it didn't affect him, but it's tight corner. I mean, you know what? Like it was Ricciardo's mistake, but like we said, it was his own race that got ruined too. And unfortunately, these things just happen. It wasn't malicious. He went to the Ferrari crew immediately after the race and apologized to them. So I think it's just forget about it. It happens. Move on. And
Well, there was a fair bit of contact on that opening lap too, because I think we saw Mick hit
Alonso, he's the one who
Alonso,
ripped
and
the
then-
side pod open.
yeah,
I think
just
we would have been
obliterated.
in
Yeah.
for some nice Alonso Hamilton battles had that side pod not deleted itself.
I'm not going to lie. I had a really good chuckle when I saw Sebastian Vettel, followed up by Lewis Hamilton, followed up by Alonso, all on the grid, one after another, but down in
Yeah.
Yeah.
the lower positions. It was
There's 13 championships there between them. That's insane, right?
Yeah.
And it is tough to see, like legends down there battling for like lowly positions. I mean, but that is what it is, right?
That happens,
It's
though.
a changing of the guard. It happened to Schumacher too, right? And it happens to all of them eventually, right? There's always someone that comes along to take the crown, right?
Yep.
And Fernando was that guy that came along, took the crown a while ago, right? So it is tough to see him though. Like this guy is, for all the comments that were made when he first signed with Alpine, like, oh, he's an old dog, you got to make room for the young guys. Like, man, he's still got
I do
it.
remember that comment. I forget who made it,
Yeah.
but someone I do remember that
I
comment.
think more than one person. There was quite a few.
Yeah.
I mean, we all saw in Australia. If it wasn't for that hydraulic issue, he would have qualified top 3, right? The times were there. He's just had horrible luck. I don't think anyone's had as bad luck as that guy. The first 4 races. So that's another.
First 4 races, and even his decisions to go where he goes in his entire career.
Oh, it stems back. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like it stems back. Like he's made.
Poor guy can't catch a break.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could say the same thing about Danny Rick, though. Leaving
Yeah.
Red Bull, goes to Renault, then goes to McLaren. But I don't know. I think once he figures out that McLaren car, I think he might. I don't think we're going to see a world championship out of him, but who knows? Maybe another race win.
I'd like to see some race wins out of him, and I would ultimately like to see him just be as competitive as he can with his teammate.
Yeah, I think we all kind of want to see that, and the same thing goes for Alonso, right? It's a couple, some bad career moves, but those two guys have still got it. They still got the raw speed. I don't think they'll ever lose that. So the talent is still there, and I mean it's
But so you're talking about talent. You're talking about Alonso. You're talking about Alpine. I think this is the perfect segue to talk about Alpine's talent that might be getting scooped up by Williams.
Yeah, this was a big topic this week. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know Williams isn't opposed to signing other drivers. I mean, we know that Albon's there now. He's still got. I'm sure Ryan's still smiling about this. He's got the Red Bull on the helmet, driving for a Mercedes team. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? I think this is something that might be announced. We're thinking mid-season if it does happen.
It could be mid-season. I mean, we've seen Red Bull and Toro Rosso. I know they're obviously it's pretty much the same team almost. So it's a lot easier for them to swap drivers. But it's not something out of the realm of possibility. It's happened a lot in Formula One where guys switch mid-season. And unfortunately, it wouldn't be Albon making way for Oscar Piastri. It would be Latifi. It would suck to lose a Canadian. But, at some point, he brings in that Sofina sponsorship. I mean, they're a local company. They're right out west from us, actually.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, they sponsor our home track, right? Like we both race at Goodwood, and there's that big Sofina thing in the middle of the track.
Yeah, so. I mean, we've all raced competitively. I raced against one of the Latifis. I don't know if it was a cousin or a nephew. I can't remember. So they're big in racing. But at some point, you do have to kind of weigh, okay, the sponsorship dollars are coming in, but at the same time, we're writing a lot of checks to the body shop here to get this thing fixed all the time, right? So, I don't know, guys. I mean, what do you think? Piastri's a generational talent, too. So, I mean, if you guys were Williams, what would you do?
Yeah, well, he dominated. I think it was he won his first season in F3, his first season in Formula 2. If anyone's deserving of a Formula 1 seat, it's Piastri. He deserves a drive.
Oh, 3 for 3. It's impressive. I have never checked the stats, but has anybody done that? Leclerc, maybe? Max?
I think Russell, maybe?
Russell? Yeah, these are big names.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look where they are now, right? So, I think it's widely known that Piastri is a generational talent. It's just unfortunate that winning the F2, and, once you win the F2 championship, you can't come back the next season. So, essentially awarded him a job on the sidelines for the year, which sucks, but, I mean, we know the Alpine Academy is big, and I mean, they are good at growing drivers. It's just they don't really seem to have a place to put them, unfortunately. But that Williams option is a good idea. I mean, I don't know, Ryan, I'll give this one to you. If you were Williams and Alpine approaches you and says, we don't want to give you this guy forever, but we'd like to loan him to you for the short term. I mean, you would take that, I would think, right?
Without a question, to have someone as talented as Oscar Piastri sitting on the sidelines is almost a shame.
Yeah.
And any car development with any team, as long as the deal is done right, I would be putting him in a car immediately. I was really hoping to see Andretti Autosports cross the pond.
Yeah.
But it's kind of looking like that's not going to happen. They don't want to make a team from scratch. They want to buy a team. And it's not looking like anything will be available anytime soon, especially with F1's current popularity just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah. I do hope they do grow to an 11th team eventually. I mean, if you guys played the F1 game, it's really fun to make your own team and have 22 cars in the grid, but it just opens up the door for getting more talent on there. Right? I mean, like Ryan said, having a guy like Piastri in the sidelines, that guy needs to be in Formula One, and I'm 100% sure he will be there for the start of next season, if not even this year, maybe, what we're hearing from Williams. But it does show a bit of a need for maybe a couple extra seats at some point, because that guy needs to be in a car ASAP.
Oh, 100%. He's got the raw talent, and I think he would do some damage in F1.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Because Williams team could use some help. Albon is he's looking really good so far. So I mean, it shows the car is obviously not there, but when you have a guy like that who's very talented and seems to, they can roll the dice with the strategy, and he seems to be able to cope with the car pretty well. That team can really benefit from having two guys like that. So, and I mean, again, same as Ferrari. It's like one of the most legendary teams in the grid. So it's a little painful to see them down in the dumps, right, for many years now. So I think getting someone like that to come in would obviously be a huge boost for them. And I mean, the money aside, they got the huge cash injection when the American, I think Dorilton, the Dorito company or whatever it is, took it over, the American firm. So they've got money. They're not hurting for money. And I think this would be the time for them to bring in a new talented driver.
Yeah.
So,
and to echo on Piastri, I was pretty sure that he was going to get the Alfa Romeo seat. And I will say, and I will give credit where credit's due, I was very harsh on Zhou Guanyu when his announcement was made. I called him like another Nikita Mazepin. He was kind of hit a stale point in F2. He was been there for a while. He comes from a backing. But I will give credit where credit's due. He's been extremely impressive. I know he had a slip up in Imola, but the first 3 races, he's been extremely impressive, and I'm happy to be silenced by him. Very impressive performances so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, points on your F1 debut, you can't really ask for anything better. I mean, obviously, you'd love a win, but not, I don't think, at Alfa Romeo this
Max Verstappen with Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of guys that can say they got points on their debuts, so shout out to Zhou Guanyu. I like to think I do watch quite a bit of the F2 races too, and I always thought he was a pretty good driver down there. He got some wins, and he was quite the competent driver down there. And it's nice to see a guy like that sort of silencing the critics a bit. And shouts out to him. He's been really good, right? And it's not like he's in like a powerhouse car or anything. So he's looking good.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of critics have been silenced, like especially us, like. We were or at least myself, I was very against the whole sprint race thing. I thought it was more of it just gives anyone who messed up their qualifying an opportunity to make it up, or it's just going to even out the grid, and the people who qualified really well or qualified out of position will just fall back, and it effectively just extends the race. But it's been really interesting with these new cars and how closely they can battle. Like, we're seeing these cars stay within a second to second and a half for laps on laps, and the tires aren't falling off. Like, it has been I'm really loving the sprint weekends. And it keeps you engaged. You've got the qualifying on Friday, the sprint on Saturday, the race on Sunday. Like, it's weird seeing, you get one practice session, then your car's in quali, now you're parc ferme conditions. So it's a little bit weird. Like, I get it from the team's perspectives. They basically have to do quali or race simulations on I think they do quali simulations in FP1, and then they do their race simulations on FP2, which is kind of a weird.
Yeah. It's different, but I mean, I was on the same side as you. I was pretty skeptical about the sprint weekends too, because my standpoint was that, why am I gonna rip this car for 20 laps the day before the race and potentially break something and have to start from the back of the grid or not be able to start at all if it's a big crash? So I was a little worried that, say, okay, we get another race, but no one's really going to go for it because they don't want to break anything. But I was totally wrong, and I think that it was a good idea for them to extend the points for the sprint races too.
Yeah.
It just gives, because obviously if someone is starting further back, sure, they can move up a couple spots, but besides that, wasn't really much in it for the lower guys. It's nice to see there's 8 guys that score points now.
Well, even for like if you win the sprint, you were only getting 3 points. Like it was great. Don't get me wrong, it's a great extra 3 points, but it's not
risk to reward. It wasn't there. Now it's there. And by the way, as a Red Bull fan, when I'm thinking there's another 21 laps chalked on that the fuel pump has to do, I got gray hairs thinking about that. So very happy they got through the weekend.
Yeah, and Ross Braun was talking, in, I think just a couple of days ago, they may want to extend it to six sprint weekends next year.
Yeah,
and you know what?
I think they agreed they're going to double the sprint races next year. The teams are on board with it.
He's a bit of a genius. I'll give him that, because he was part of the development of this new era of car, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they nailed what they were going after, the mission of that car. Like, you can drive closer and the tires don't fall off.
Yep.
And even though they're extremely heavy, and it was definitely a little bit noticeable in testing in Bahrain, it seems like Imola, which is a smaller, tighter track, the cars looked pretty settled and figured out. Like, even though they're heavier, they don't seem too heavy, and the drivers have seemed to work around them now. That was my biggest concern, watching the weight constantly climb up. You're losing YouTube go-kart, I don't, and Formula One is supposed to be the top series of go-karting. Like, it's a go-kart on steroids, essentially.
Yeah.
So, and I always fear that it's veering away from what it was intended to be, becoming this massive, monstrous, heavy thing. But I feeling like I'm a little bit wrong in that, and they seem pretty good.
Yeah, and I think it's a comment that a few people have made, is that these cars, they sort of handle a little closer to a Formula 2 car. So it's, you know, a little heavier on the steering, but it is a little grippier in those low-speed corners. And again, that's why I think a guy like Joe Guan Yu might be doing pretty well at the start too.
Or even like a Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, fresh out of Formula 2, they might have jumped in these new cars and been like,
hey.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I've
it's
done this.
almost like a familiar...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if we had Ryan get out of his drift car and drive a go-kart, he'd struggle a little bit, whereas I get out of my go-kart, I'll go take a few laps in my Miata, and it feels pretty similar around the track. So.
Yep.
Yeah. So
You know?
it's I think being able to jump in and out of, you know, last year's F2 car, this year's F1 car, there are those similarities there too, and it's helping certain people.
Well,
it's
especially
hurting
with
other people.
the 18-inch wheels, right? F2 got, I think they started on the
That's
18-inch
right,
wheels last year,
you're
so
right.
maybe they're a little more accustomed to not just the sight lines, but how those tires perform and whatnot. I mean, personally, I like the 13s a little bit better. I think they look really cool.
Not a fan of wheel covers.
Not really a fan.
I'm a fan of the
but
meaty tires too.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
I
the
think the 13s
big tire,
are-
little
They're old
wheels.
school. I like them too. These have to grow on me. I just wish, you know what, they're going to put those Steelies on the wheels, man. I wish a few more people would paint them or sell a sponsorship or something.
Yeah,
on it.
like what
Yeah.
McLaren and Alpha did. They kind of just they owned it. Like, it looks
Yeah.
I
good.
mean, Zach Brown was like, hey, there's some more real estate. You guys want to sponsor it? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, number one team boss on the planet, the ultimate
Yeah.
brand man himself, Zach Brown.
Did you see the photo of the dinner, and he's just decked out in all McLaren? Either he didn't get the memo or he did not care.
Well, I think
Oh,
him
dude.
and Seidel were both dressed in all McLaren, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just the ultimate team. I mean, I saw Andreas Seidel leading a choir singing to Norris after his podium.
Yeah.
They're hilarious, you know.
I'm convinced Zach Brown wears McLaren Speedos when he's on vacation.
Oh yeah, I know he's a big hockey guy too. So you know what? Maybe like McLaren gear under his jersey or something. Like,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, it's an interesting time to be a Formula One fan. That's the most important
Oh, yeah.
part. It's you know, Imola was a great weekend. You know, it's a lot to cover there. There was one thing I did want to point out. Straight from the horse's mouth from Total Wolff, you know, they said that they might be making some adjustments to the ride height of the Mercedes that might affect the porpoising. I do believe they had to change the ride height substantially for Imola, and it really hurt them. He seemed to believe that whatever ride height changes they might have in store could be like a drastic change, maybe even as soon as Miami. So I take it or leave it. I don't know. Might be smoke and mirrors, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
They've been very smart with their cost cap. By the way, it sounds they're not just throwing stuff at it. So if they're going to bring an upgrade, it's going to be the upgrade. They're not going to rush into it. And I know this is off topic. We passed this already, but it's been on my mind. The McLaren compared to the Mercedes at the beginning of the season, the massive key difference is McLaren knew what their issue was. So they could put their head down and get it fixed. As Mercedes is a little bit in the dark. Like, they've kind of said they've been a little bit dumbfounded on what the hell is going on with their car. And that's a huge key role is, A, you have to identify it, troubleshoot the issue, and then come up with the solution and hope that that's it.
Yeah,
You just
that's-
dumped a lot of your cost cap into sorting that
That's a good
out.
point, because McLaren like instantly came out and said that the biggest problem they had was the brakes. It was really, really hurting them. So at least you could say, you know, we're in a bad spot. At least we know what has to be fixed, and they've done a great job of fixing it. Mercedes, on the other hand, have a lot of issues, and they didn't really seem to know what exactly it was.
Well, even George was saying, like, his back and chest are mangled from the
Yeah.
porpoise. Like, you can see it on board. That does not look like a good time.
No.
At all. And, like, even the Ferrari porpoises a lot, but as soon as they brake and turn in, it's gone. Like, fully gone.
Yeah.
Almost where they're trying to keep it PG-13. Whereas, like, yeah, that Mercedes, like, they can't even turn it in properly. Like, it's bouncing, and it's bouncing so aggressively.
It
Like,
kind of reminds me of what it's like when you go at a really fast corner and drift and you completely miss it and go off track.
Yeah.
Shannonville, for instance, is a very unforgiving off track, and it's like and you're bouncing around. So when I see the onboards, I'm like, hey, I know what that. A lot slower, but I know what that feels
Well, I
like.
mean, to be fair, if you go off track at Shannonville, right off the bat, just from the track to the grass is what, like a 5-6 inch drop?
It's been cleaned up quite a bit, but
yeah,
it used
I
to
think
be.
the
There
new
was a
owners of
huge
the
bump,
track,
yeah.
What is it, Bondar or whatever? I think
John
we went
Bondar, yeah.
John
Yeah.
Bondar. We went for we did a little. Well, you and Shorky did a little private drift day, and that was a ton of fun. The track seemed to be cleaned up real
Yep.
nice. Like now what's nice is they've kind of saved a certain layout for drifting that they know they're going to have to maintain a lot, and they can focus now on, you know, now we're going to preserve our GP track or our full circuit. It's going to be better for the people who have, you know, those crazy aero setups. If they go off, they're not going to drop 6 feet into the grass.
Shannonville was also originally a biking track, so
Yeah.
he just improved overall safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an uncle that biked there actually back in the day, raced motorcycles. So it's a different time, different era. So every track makes changes, right? I mean,
I think the thing Cayuga needs to do is fix that little bump just like
Oh,
coming out
man.
of the final corner.
they paved that.
We drove it. What was that? I think we did a track day last September,
Oh,
and like coming out of that final corner, it's like it's still just a little bit of a bounce,
all right.
but overall the tracks really. I mean, we're being picky, but we're just nitpicking. Maybe we should we'll stop nitpicking our own tracks, and maybe we nitpick the Miami track. What do you
yeah,
guys?
if you actually do want to know about Shannonville and Cayuga, if you're out of town listeners, then Google them, YouTube them, check them out. But yeah, in terms of making changes to a track, we've got a new track.
Yeah, we've got the
coming.
first Miami GP
Yeah.
next weekend. That's going to be a street circuit. We know Red Bulls like street circuits.
Street circuit. I'm doing like the air quotes right
Yeah.
now. I feel like it's the same Jeddah. This is like Jeddah where they kept calling it a street circuit, and it's like, dude, there's like literally never been a car driving on this plot of land in history. But you know what? It looks okay. I mean, we'll obviously go pretty in depth into this in the next week, previewing the Miami Grand Prix. But if we just like a quick idea of the track, guys, like what do you guys think of the layout? It's
pretty cool. I mean, I think I don't know. I want to see what it's going to be like. Maybe we get a little tease during FP1, FP2 just to see what sometimes some of the drivers like to overtake each other, do some fake battles. Hopefully it's a decent enough track and it's not going to be like a Monaco style where it's qualifying basically determines the finishing order.
I sure hope not.
Yeah, I think it's wide enough, and I think they've got big enough straightaways that it should be a good one. I mean, it's pretty obvious, like, new tracks. I think they're going for speed and excitement and fast corners. Like, when we've got a map of Jeddah right up here.
Yeah,
and it's
so
like,
I just did a quick
yeah.
pull up. Jeddah is 6.1K long and Miami's 5.1K long. So it's a little bit long. It's a
Yeah.
little bit shorter, and it seems to be, I don't know, it's a good mix. There's a big back straight, and then you can pretty much call that a straightaway. That's going to be an entire flat out section.
Yeah.
The back, which just for all the listeners, it is corner 9 to 11, or corner 8 to 11 is just flat out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be super high speed, but that tight corner 11,
That'll probably be
that'd be a
nice.
really good overtaking opportunity. And then
Maybe we'll see some late braking by Danny Rick.
this,
That's
I
a
think
Danny Rick
this
corner. Yeah.
this will be a hard track to figure out how to wing the cars and set up the cars.
Yeah, that's
Because you have a little bit of everything in it, which could, hey, maybe this could bring a new contender into the top of the field.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's the fun part about going to a new track, right? Is it's fair game. No one has any experience there. That's going to be fun. I think, I think next week we'll have a lot to cover on that track.
I think we'll save
Yeah.
it. We'll save it for next week. I think we'll wrap this one up and check us out. Make sure you guys subscribe on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. We're gonna try to do as many of these things as we can, and we hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll catch you for the Miami GP preview next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. And shouts out to Ryan Chapman here. First time on the show. We finally got all three of us together. So, Ryan, it's good to have you here, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
And, so thanks for listening, guys. And we will catch you next week on the Formula A podcast.